back to the SportsMax Zone. All but one of the 13 nominees for the RGR Gleaner Sports Foundation National Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year Awards is from the sport of track and field. The sportswomen nominees are headlined by Paris Olympic Games triple jump silver medalist Shanika Ricketts. The list is completed by 400 hurdler Rochelle Clayton, sprint hurdler Akira Nugent, quarter miler Nikisha Price, and the only non-track and field nominee across both categories, Caribbean cycling champion Laurie Sharp. On the men's side, Olympic Games discus champion Rajesh Stoner leads a list of 5 medalists from this summer's Games in Paris. He is accompanied by silver medalists, 100-meter sprinter Kishane Thompson and long jumper Wayne Pinnock, plus bronze medalists, sprint hurdler Rashid Broadbell and shot putter Rajendra Campbell. The shortlist is completed by World Indoor 60-meter bronze medalist Akeem Blake, World Indoor 400-meter bronze medalist Rashid McDonald, and World Indoor long jump bronze medalist Kieran McLeod. Now, the yearly debates, mostly about big names missing, have already started across the island on radio talk shows and social media. Many feel there is an unfair bias towards track and field and that the criteria needs to be adjusted for more inclusivity. SportsMax.tv editor and track and field analyst Leighton Levy is one of those, and he joins us once again for this discussion. Leighton Levy, I'm starting to feel as if we can make this an annual date because every single year around this time we have this very conversation, and here we are once more, the nominations out for the RGR Sports Foundation National Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year, and the debate is raging. What say you this time around?
I think the debate continues primarily because I think the board of the RGR Sports Foundation refuses or is resisting broadening the terms in terms of the criteria required for athletes to be nominated for Athlete of the Year. Back in the 1960s, when the award just began, when it was, I think it was the careers, I think it was, there were very few athletes who were excelling across a broader spectrum of sports in Jamaica. It's primarily cricket, track and field, and boxing. If you remember, Percy Hills was among the first winners over time. Mike McCallum, Richard Trimpe Clark, Axman, Nicholas Walters, and of course, I think David Weller back in 1980 as well. So, there have been instances where athletes outside of track and field have been, nominated and actually gone on to win. Ali Atkinson as well. But for the most part, you look at it, it's been heavily skewed in favor of track and field, and primarily because the board refuses to acknowledge or is resistant to the idea that when you participate at that club level, I'm using the term club level very broadly here, then you're not qualified for the opportunity to become sportsman or sportswoman of the year. But over time, we've seen, for example, especially in the last few years, when a number of our netballers are playing in the best league in the world in Australia, the Suncorp Super League. And in more recent times, the emergence of players like Bunny Shaw, who right now is perhaps one of the best players in the world. I mean, last year she was the PFA PFA Athlete of the Year, Women's Athlete Football of the Year, sorry. And of course, the Sports Writers Female Football of the Year, and of course, a Ballon d'Or nominee twice over, and still she can't get nominated for the possibility of being named the Jamaican Woman Sportsman of the Year. And I think it's time for a change, and I think that conversation has been going on for some time now. And I think maybe now is the time for us to have a serious conversation of how that happens and what needs to be done for the award to be more inclusive.
Yeah. Leighton, do you have any issues with the specific shortlists released for the 2024 awards?
I think for the men, you and I had a discussion this morning. For the men,
you don't have to tell the world, Leighton. Let's pretend this is the first time we're talking about it.
Let's forget that we had that discussion this morning then. All right, so for the men, I don't think you can argue much with the the nominees. They're all global medalists. Huh? For the women, however, the women shortlist is five, and I think the maximum is eight. Why shouldn't, for example, a Shamira Sterling Humphries or Romelda Aiken, who was MVP of the title-winning Adelaide Thunderbirds, and of course, a Bunny Shaw, why couldn't they be among the nominees as well? So, and of course, it comes back again to the criteria. They say that it's world, continental, regional, and domestic. Those are the four levels, in which you can qualify through. Nikisha Price, for example, where does she fit into that category? The NCAA is certainly in my mind, and the mind of many, a lower level than the Diamond League. And they said up to yesterday when they were announcing the nominees that the Diamond League is not considered. So how then is she nominated? And listen, because I know there are people there.
Let me get that straight, Leighton, because I must have missed that part of the announcement. You're saying that the organizers said that the Diamond League is not part of the consideration?
That when I mentioned when they were announcing the nominees, there was a short video presentation about what the athletes had accomplished during the course of the year.
And for the track and field athletes, their Diamond League performances were all included in that.
Exactly. So when I mentioned it, when I asked a question about why the award is not more inclusive, it was pretty much made clear. I was interjected actually when I was asking the question. The Diamond League is not considered as a criteria. So unless I misinterpreted what was said, but that was what came across when I was asking the question, because I said I see here. Let me finish this thought. Yeah. I saw here a lot of the nominees, their Diamond League accomplishments were mentioned, and then it was the chairman of the board who was sitting in the audience said to me, no, not the Diamond League. So I said, okay, fine. But then you look at the nominees, and then you see that, and look, as I said before, Nikisha Price is the NCAA champion. She's the first Jamaican woman under 49 seconds. This is not to denigrate or take away from anything that she's accomplished during the course of the year, but based on the criteria, she's on the list. So I'm not quite sure if they are clear themselves on what the criteria is for those who are nominated for women's sportswoman of the year. So, it's kind of like they're not quite sure where they are in terms of what the criteria should be, or they are conflicting or they're contradicting themselves in terms of what the criteria actually is.
Yeah, but before I get Lance and Mariah in on this, Leighton, I just want to make the point that when I look at the criteria, within the criteria, I think the nomination of Nikisha Price is very much okay within the criteria. The issue is that the metrics that you use to select, in my opinion at least, Nikisha Price, are being taken away when you speak about athletes in different sports. So like football, like netball, because what Nikisha Price achieved in 2024 were not performances in the colours of Jamaica. In the same way that the biggest achievements by Khadija Bunny Shaw or Romelda Aiken or Janine Fowler were not in the colours of Jamaica. But it appears, and I know you say, Leighton, that it was said yesterday that the Diamond League is not taken into consideration, but there is not one person who has watched these awards over the years who believe that. Not one. Not one.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is this. To further qualify the point, it is part of what the opinion piece that I wrote this morning, where I said that the impression you get based on the criteria is that you have to accomplish these things wearing national colors. Because if you're playing in probably the best league in the world in Bunny Shaw, playing for Manchester City Women, and you're the PFA Athlete of the Year and the Sports Writers Athlete of the Year and a Ballon d'Or nominee, and you can't get a nomination for your own country's Athlete of the Year, it suggests that the only way you can get onto that nominees list is if you're representing your country when you perform. So, it is in that context where I mentioned I mentioned Nikisha Price. As I said before, this is not to take away from anything she accomplished this year, because all her performances were either individual at the Diamond League or for the University of Arkansas at the NCAA level. Similarly, when you're looking at what happened with Shamira Sterling, she top of the list in the Suncourt Super League in terms of deflections and interceptions. Latanya Wilson is number 2. Romilda Aiken is the MVP of the final. Janelle Fowler Nemard is the perennial, it seems, leading scorer every single year for the past 5 or 6 years in the Suncourt Super League. She was nominated last year, right? So the fact that she was nominated again this year, 846 goal attempts makes her number 1 in the Suncorp Super League, and 813 goals makes her the leading scorer again. She's the MVP for her club, and she can't get a nomination, a consistent nomination for Athlete of the Year. Nobody says they have to win, but the recognition of the nomination is what I'm talking about. Because look, in a year, especially in Olympic or World Championship year, if an athlete, for example, Shelly Ann Fraser-Price or Sherika Jackson or Elaine Thompson-Herro or Safa Powell or Usain Bolt or in this case Roger Stoner wins at the Olympic Games, you can't see anybody topping that because that's at the very pinnacle of the sport. But if you're gonna exclude people because you think that they have to perform exceptionally well only in national colors, it's kind of ridiculous because, as I mentioned in my column today, if, for example, Leon Bailey scores 40 goals and has 15 assists and Aston Villa wins the English Premier League, does that not qualify him to be a nominee for Male Athlete of the Year? It's not inclusive, and it needs to be addressed and needs to be adjusted to facilitate what we have seen now in terms of the evolution of sport in Jamaica. And I think the criteria needs to be expanded to match that.
Yeah, Levi, we are out of time. I just want to make a quick suggestion here that the way the criteria is written now is that you really have one level eliminating the other. So Olympic and World Championship, that's of course the highest level. And once you have someone doing well at that level, everything else becomes null and void, really. What I think maybe a better criteria would be is to award weighting for each level, and then you sort of do a calculation at the end of it all and come up with a winner. Yeah. And I think there are ways to sit down and work this out.
A weighted balance in terms of what the accomplishments are.
Yeah.
That is most likely the way to go because.
Yeah. But we're out of time, Leighton. We absolutely have to go. We're done out of time. We'll talk. We'll talk again tomorrow morning. Yeah, break time.